All right, we're recording. I am here. It is morning. I saw Rachel, you have your hot beverage. I have my coffee because a nice morning hangout with Rachel Conley, who I'm so glad you reached out to me. We met because you reached out to me as a newer doula to the area. And I'm really excited and happy that you are here in the Philadelphia area and excited to get the chance to introduce you and to hopefully connect you with people that are going to be just right for your personality, for your giftings, for what you provide as a doula. So, so just tell us, I guess, a little bit about you. I'm going to want to know, and everybody's going to want to know sort of how you got into birth work. But I know, I have a feeling there's always more to the story than just how you got in birth work. Like, tell us a little bit about how you got here in Philadelphia, I guess, is part of that story, but I'll let you take it. You tell me. Tell us
Okay.
how you got here to do what you're doing.
It's a long story. I'll just give you highlights. So I was living in North Carolina up until about 2015 with my husband, and we'd been married about 6 years, and we were expecting our first child. This was in 2015, and we took Bradley classes and the childbirth education stuff, and we loved it, like both of us, surprisingly. And my husband was super involved in the process. And the birth of my first daughter was just a super powerful, transformative experience. And I remember telling Chris back then, I was like, I think I want to do this. Like, I think I kind of want to change a career. And he was like, I could totally see you doing this.
Yeah.
And so, I filed it away in the back of my mind. And at the time, I was working as a music teacher, piano teacher, and we were moving overseas. So my husband was taking a teaching position with a Christian organization, and we left to go overseas in 2017. We were 36 weeks pregnant with our second. It was intensely crazy. I don't recommend doing an international move when you're in your third trimester. But I got there and I found a birth center, and I had a great birth. I gave birth in Cape Town. And so I started working there when we were in South Africa with a nonprofit that it reached out to women in a township, which for them, the township is kind of a slum. Like, it's a very low income area. It was very racially segregated. And these are women that don't have electricity. They don't have running water. Very hard community with a lot of crime. But this program supported women in a whole life, holistic way, job support, relational support, friend support. Most of them were single moms. And I just remember seeing, as I talked to women and I heard their stories, there was so much trauma around childbirth. I mean, many women would deliver their own children without a medical assistant in the public hospital because the public hospitals were just so understaffed. And I remember thinking, and almost feeling like I was hearing the Lord saying to me, it's time. And we were there, we were settled. I was getting the rhythm with 2 babies now. And Chris, my husband, was a huge encourager to me. Like, okay, it's time to start training. So I found an online program through Childbirth International. And so I did all the learning portion online, but you work with a trainer. So mine was in Canada, and we communicated regularly, and you have to attend births. And the program took me about 5 months. And from there, I was able to work with that nonprofit to start actually supporting women as a doula. And then I found that really what these women needed was education. So a lot of the fear around childbirth is when you don't know what's happening in your body. You don't know what a contraction is. You don't know why it feels painful. And so I taught classes through Her Voice nonprofit on nutrition, infant care, breastfeeding, a lot about labor and birth. And women were just they wanted to come. I mean, they were absorbing information. And then that's kind of how I got my start, was working in South Africa for a couple of years.
And then you've been here in the United States. Am I right that COVID was part of the story of bringing
Yeah.
you back here? Yeah,
Yeah.
or at least you've landed in a new place when everything was shut down.
Yeah.
So
That's kind of
we're
crazy.
virtually having this interview, and we've only virtually talked before,
Yeah.
because we've all been living in this virtual world.
Yeah. So we were visiting our family in the States. First time I'd seen my family in 3 years. And we were here for a couple of months, and we were about to go back to South Africa, and the border shut.
Yeah.
And our visas expired, and our organization basically wisely replanted us here in Northeast
Yeah.
Philly. So yeah, it was a hard transition, especially leaving behind like the women that I'd been working with. Like there were a few Indigenous South African women that had come to me and said, train me. Like, we
Mm.
want to keep this going. One day you're going to leave, and we want this to be something that continues in our community forever. Like,
Mhm.
teach us. And
Yeah.
so I had been working with those women like twice a week, going through all the educational materials with them. And that was incredible. And to leave those women like ripped my heart out.
Mm.
Um, but I have seen them be able to find the resources that they needed to get connected and keep that program going. So that's how I landed here. And thankfully, there are women, no matter where you live in the world,
Yeah.
there's women that need support. So
Yeah. Yeah. And that must be such a sense of like reconnecting with that delight that you had of the work, and as hard as it is to have sort of a decision made for you and not be able to go back to where you wanted to be. I love that you're getting to now do birth work here in Philadelphia. And so I know you've had some opportunities to connect with people to support births here, and also are offering some classes. And I think what's really cool, you shared before we started recording that you're getting hospital experience and also home birth experience with which a lot of doulas don't ever break into. So let's highlight that you're gonna, you said you're on call for a home birth, so you will have some home birth experience for people that are having home birth and looking for support. So yeah, what is it that you think really makes you come alive when you're supporting a birth, and what are ways that you see yourself? Obviously you and your husband both recognize that this was something that you are a natural fit for. So can you describe sort of the way that you picture yourself and the things that you're doing when you are supporting someone in a birth?
I'm sorry, can you clarify the question just a little bit?
Yeah. So just like, I mean, what are the things when you like if you have those moments where you just know you're in your element, whether it's like the physical support or emotional support that you offer, what does it look like for you to be like really in your element as a doula?
All right. I love the education side of things. So I'm also a childbirth educator. And when I'm doing that, and I get women get these aha moments when like they've been learning, and then they're like, oh wow, like the body is amazing and my body can do that. Those aha moments. And even on the doula side of things, as I'm working with women in our prenatal visits, and like I'm helping them prepare and just helping them feel confident, and you see this sense of like, I am not fearful. I know my body was made to do this, and I can make informed decisions. And you see that confidence in women, and I know that I help women work through that process of confidence, and that just like gives me this huge sense of satisfaction that I get to be part of that journey. And I think like for me, birth work, it's humbling, and it's also spiritual. Like there's something so meaningful about it that for me to get to be part of a woman's story, it just is incredible.
Yeah. One of the points that I always talk about in my birth classes is how, birth is not primarily a medical experience. If anything, it's primarily a rite of passage more than anything else. And that, of course, there's a lot of good reasons to have the medical staff there. Some people are most comfortable or need that for really important reasons to be in a medical like environment. But I love how doulas bring that element of the reminder that this is not primarily a medical event. This is primarily a hugely important day in your life as a whole person, as a, not just as a body, but as a spiritual person, as a, I think that so much of your confidence in parenting will come from reflecting back on seeing yourself rise up when it comes to giving birth. And even if sometimes that's rising up of like digging down within yourself and having the ability to manage the pain and the work, but also it's like, well, look how smart I was to have these people around me, to choose these caregivers, to have this support person. And that, we need those same things through all of life. And the idea of how we do birth is how we do life, and how we do life is how we do birth. There's so many lessons to be learned from it, and so much good to take from it. Yeah. So tell us a little bit more about like what you think would be unique if someone chose you as their doula versus picking someone else. What sort of things about you are would make you like a really good fit for someone? What should they be looking for if they're looking for you?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I think to be a good doula, you really have to have a sense of intuition, because I mean, some women, you know this from your experience, some women really need you to be hands-on. I mean, they want you to touch them through every contraction, massage their shoulders, play with their hair, whatever it is. And some women really just want you to be in the back of the room as a quiet presence.
Yeah.
But often if women have never been through birth before, or if they've never had a doula, they really don't know what they need or what they want. And so you kind of have to draw women out in those prenatal appointments to figure out like who they are, what kind of support would be beneficial. And that comes from asking good questions. So I think that, like if you hire me as your doula, like I'm going to really take time to listen to you and to try to ask you the questions to get to what kind of experience do you want? We as doulas, we never push our philosophy on anyone. We're not trying to get women to have, drug-free, all natural, no interventions. Although we are fans of natural childbirth, but like our job as doulas is to help women make informed decisions and then just support them through every decision. So, I think it's being a good listener. It's taking time with women, and I love that part of it. So,
awesome. Yeah. I should mention, we noticed this beforehand, but everyone else can see we're earring twins. There's the only person I know who has these earrings too is not a birth worker, but is a nurse who has worked with parent education, who does parent education. So this is like this must be birth earrings somehow. So I think this is really fun. I love doing these interviews because there's a chance, I think, for people just to get to know you a little bit in a way that their curiosity is piqued, like have a sense of comfort, but also want to know more, and hopefully reach out to you and have you ask those questions, and in those conversations gain that sense of comfort that you would be the fit for the support that they needed during their birth. So my last question, I think, is a kind of fun question. I ask every doula this because it's always interesting to hear the similarities and the differences. Obviously, birth work, attending a birth can be really like physically demanding and exhausting. Sometimes there have definitely been times where I've gone to a birth and like, I can't believe, like, I barely made it in time. And then a few hours later, I'm back home. And then there's times where I'm like, bye family, like maybe I'll see you in a couple of hours. There's coming and going, and it's a multi-day event. So whether it's a multi-day event or a really quick birth, I'm curious about some of your rituals and routines, some self-care that you do for yourself after you have attended a birth.
That's a good question, Elizabeth, because you're right. It can be really demanding work. And usually, like I just attended a birth like a week ago, and I think the whole labor was 33 hours. And of course, I was only there for the last 17, but that's 17 hours on your feet,
It's a long time. Yeah.
A lot of time doing counter pressure and hip squeezes.
Yeah.
So I come home and I took a nap. I just passed out for a good 3 or 4 hours. And then I will I'm an introvert, so I will spend quite a bit of alone time. Maybe I love nature, so I'll go for a walk or a hike in the woods. I like to play piano. So something that's very cathartic for me is to spend some time alone playing piano. And I'll just know that for me, self-care is doing those activities that I enjoy that kind of feed my soul, and to make sure that I have enough time and space, like in the whole like day following the birth, to like, and that can be hard, as you know, when you have like really young children, because my kids are 2 and 6. So when I get home, it's not like I get a break. It's like, whoa, we're back on.
Yeah.
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 But my husband really has to help me out in that one, because he knows that like work doesn't end the moment you get home, and you've got to process.
Not by any means. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
awesome. And I think it's so good to explicitly like point out that you recognize yourself as an introvert, because I think sometimes people assume like, oh, doula is like someone who wants to go and like be at someone's birth, must be like a natural extrovert to want to go to be in an environment like that. And it's so important. I think some people want a doula who is like a cheerleader and an extrovert and maybe like makes birth feel like a party. And there's a lot of people that are going to hear this and find that comfort of like, oh my gosh, an introvert would totally get me. I need an introvert doula. So I think I love the way that you really know yourself, and you know how to take care of yourself and sort of recognize. And even if you're, it's been just a handful of years that you've been doing doula work, and just more recent to Philadelphia, I think you have amazing potential to like, you're wise beyond your Philadelphia years, wise beyond your doula years, to be able to step in and support people with just readiness to meet them where they are. So that's awesome.
Yeah, thanks, Elizabeth.
Yeah, cool. Well, thank you so much for taking this time. I'm excited to get this up on the website, and for some newly pregnant people looking for a doula, or sometimes, I don't know, some people that come to the website looking for a doula are like, just took my Positively Pregnant class. I totally sold them on the idea of a doula. They're going to go watch all the interviews. They're going to find somebody. And sometimes it's people who are in a birth class and they're 36 weeks pregnant, and they're like, oh man, like why did I not realize how great a doula would be? So hopefully that's the beauty of that, is that people can come in and they'll get to know you even without you knowing about it until after they call you and say, I saw you on the Baby John interview. So
yeah, that'd be great.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. And I will have all your contact information along with this too, and encourage people to reach out to you by email. And you're covering all the Philly hospitals in about an hour of the Northeast. So yeah, I'm going to hook you up. I want to get you hooked up with the doulas up there, and especially with Abington, because I know they're doing a lot to try to get doulas into there as well. So awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Elizabeth. So great.